Hello and welcome back to the official Scottish Rugby podcast. Joining Rachel, Al and I on the show this week is current Scotland captain Stuart Hogg. Hello skippers, how are we?
Very well, thank you.
Hoggy, you alright?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, good, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. Thank you very much for both of you for coming on the podcast. Sorry, I should say we also have former Scotland captain Al Kellock here as well. So I'm surrounded by leadership. I've achieved nothing in life, but this is reiterating that in this podcast. But now,
there's your kestrels. You don't put yourself down like that. Do you skip for their your kestrels?
Nope, top try scorer though.
We should say at the beginning that we've got a few potential technical issues, Hoggy. We've had a wee bit of sound trouble getting you on. So everybody, I think, can hear you fine. So, Hoggy, how are you?
I'm very well, Al. Good to be back on the podcast. Looking forward to it.
We've got you fine. It was good your wife Gillian came up and helped you a wee bit. That was terrific. Managed to get you to press the right button. So fantastic. Great to have you.
Yeah, you and I need to have words after this. It's all right. We'll be all right.
Rach, moving on. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely fine. No technical difficulties here, which is good. But no, I'm all good, thank you.
Good. Now we're going to have a little bit of a dig into your own leadership styles, but also what's going on with life at the moment. Clearly a little bit different for both of you. We've been following the social media, and the gym setups look good, guys. Rachel, you said that you managed to get in and get a few borrow a bit of equipment.
Yeah, borrow. Yeah, no, I've done all right so far. I've managed to get a bit of a weight set up, and I've got a bike and turbo trainer in that, so getting a bit of off feet conditioning because my old body can't hack being on feet all the time. So yeah, no, my setup's more than adequate at the moment to keep me ticking over.
And Hoggy, your setup looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's not too bad actually. I renovated my garage, and I'm not a manly man who has tools and workshop and all that kind of malarkey. So all I had in it was cardboard boxes from moving house. So yeah, I renovated it, got it all done out. Got the gym platform in there, bike, cross trainer, treadmill, a few dumbbells. So it's good to keep ticking over. But in these difficult circumstances, it's also a good place to hide from the wife and kids. They'll ask me in the first couple of weeks of lockdown how long the kind of average gym session lasts them. I think I said it was roughly about 2.5 to 3 hours. So far so good. We seem to be getting away with it. Gym sessions are probably lasting that amount of time, but there's a lot of sitting around and as I say, hiding from them. So
Hoggy's going to come back in the shape of his life.
Yeah, well, you you reckoned you were training harder now than you did when you were playing.
Yeah, I think, well, it's kind of different. It's different because, you know, obviously during the normal week you maybe have 3 weight sections at a push. Whereas I'm kind of like obviously just getting into a routine now of lifting weights pretty much every single morning. And S&C coaches had to kind of put a little rein on me and pull me back in a bit because I was kind of doing a wee bit too much. But I like to keep ticking over. I like to keep training and. I've enjoyed it. It's been great to almost let the body rest a little bit from the niggles and not playing rugby. But yeah, like it's just strange times. It's weird for everyone, but it's kind of refreshing because you get to spend a lot more time at home and be with Jill and the kids a lot more. It has been good.
Yeah, Hoggy, I've got exactly the same problem. I'm often told in the gym that I'm doing far too much as well. So it's about scaling back, isn't it? But I guess, Rach, it's also about doing the right stuff as well. So I guess you'll have a plan that you're working towards, and you'll have a schedule that you're sticking to.
Yeah, so I actually follow my club plan down here, Loughborough Lightning. So we're following kind of a similar plan to as we would have done had the season finished. So we're working towards kind of the end of May being our end of season and then working towards a break then. I know most of the Scottish-based girls have just come off the back of a 3-week break. So yeah, they've been brilliant, to be honest, over the lockdown. They've set us training every single day, challenges, stuff like that, to keep us ticking over. And like Hoggy says, it's just having a bit more time to do the stuff that you didn't actually have time to do, things like your recovery. So we've been having yoga sessions 3 times a week, for example, which I never ever would have had time to do before, but actually has a massive impact on how you recover and allowing you to train a bit harder. So yeah, no, it's been really good, and we've been really well supported. So quite enjoying having the time, as you say, to get bits ticked off.
Okay, you've talked in the past about you felt as if you probably did too many weights for a while, and you got too big. How big a danger is that for you? Take us back. When was that? When did you feel as if maybe you'd gone to the point where the size was too much?
Yeah, probably around kind of late 2016, coming into 2017. I was probably sitting about 100 kilos, 101 kilos, and not all of that was good weight. But like I was lifting a lot of, like, for me, quite heavy weights. I was training with Sean Lamont every day, and like I felt really strong. I felt it maybe added a little, but I tried to add a little bit to my game in terms of obviously trying to beat people one-on-one, but having the ability to get myself out of trouble by running over the top of people as well. And so I got myself to about 101 kilos. Was cramping after about 60 minutes every week, and hadn't managed to run over anybody yet. So yeah, kind of, as I say, I was lifting quite heavy weights for myself, but like everything, you learn and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And I think since then I've learned a lot about my body and what's good for me. And being at 101 kilos, the skin folds around 95 isn't the best shape.
I think it's fascinating how much, like, to you guys as an example, how much to your point, you know your own bodies now. You when I first started, you were given a program, and everybody, it was a kind of generic forwards, backs, but everything is individualised now. And Hoggy, to your point there, you knew personally that you were too heavy. How much is that is your decision, and how much are you working with the strength and conditioning guys to make sure you find the right balance?
It's having the good conversations, because everything, as you say, is geared around the individual. You can't do a set in stone program. It's going to be get the best out of everybody. So for me, it's having these conversations of what works well for me. I've not squatted in about 3 years now, since I had the shoulder problems and couldn't hold a bar. I was squatting fairly heavy, and it wasn't great for my back, but that was me as an individual. So I moved on to kind of little things like trap bar deadlift, which works a lot better for me, and little things like that. My game is based on my speed, so all my strength programs, my lower body weight is around getting faster and getting good running technique, etc. So a lot of trap bar, a lot of single leg stuff, a lot of box jumps and hurdle work. So everything's geared around, as I say, staying fast and adding to that if I can.
Now, Rich, you came to rugby reasonably late, and we've covered this previously, but you were an elite level hockey player. You played international junior level hockey. How big a difference was it as far as the strength conditioning and what you need to do to be rugby ready at the top of that game as to what you need to be hockey ready?
Yeah, it's huge, to be honest. When I played hockey, it was all we did. Well, not all we did, but a huge aspect of our prep was just running, and a lot of high volume running, and I think that does prepare you well. But when you've got the kind of, like Hoggy says, the size on top of doing a high volume of running, it's getting the balance right so you don't pick up kind of strain and stress injuries, which was probably the thing I found moving over and putting on a bit of mass in terms of muscle mass and stuff, changing sport, was not necessarily being able to complete the same volume of running without picking up little niggles. And I probably learnt that the hard way in the first season or two that I played rugby, where I picked up a few kind of stressy type injuries. But to be fair with hockey, because you're very low to the ground, and you'll know this from your recent hockey experience, Al, that you do a lot of lower body weight. So a lot of the stuff that I was doing in terms of weights when I played hockey was all lower body. But then coming to rugby, I'd literally never benched before in my life, things like that. So that kind of building the upper body strength was a massive learning curve, and from a physical point of view for me, was trying to build that strength pretty quickly. So I kind of had the leg strength, but from an upper body point of view, I had pretty much nothing to start with. So that was where I had to focus in on the first couple of seasons.
So we should give some context. Rachel and I were speaking quite a lot over the Six Nations, and towards the end of it, unfortunately, obviously curtailed a little bit short. I played my first ever game of hockey for Western Wildcats.
Yeah, Western Wildcats.
For the Fifths. Now, my daughter plays there, and at 6'8", yeah, my back was in absolute pieces after that. Although I'll play again, but I'm not sure I would ever call myself an elite hockey player like you, Rach.
On your point, Rach, there about switching sports, from hockey to rugby, I was watching, I don't know if you guys have seen The Last Dance on Netflix with Michael Jordan, and he talked about the exact same thing about he transitioned from baseball to basketball and the difference in fitness that he had to have as well. How big a challenge, mentally, and we all know physically challenged, but mentally, how big a challenge was that for you, Rach, as well?
To be honest, it was actually, the mental side of it was probably the easiest. And the reason I say that is because I've kind of got to the point with hockey that I was just so done with it. And I was kind of didn't have the enthusiasm and I'm always someone that kind of gives 110 in terms of like my commitment to training and stuff. And I was just getting to the point where I didn't really have that. So then going to something where I was completely rubbish, couldn't pass, couldn't catch, couldn't do anything. And I was learning a new skill every day and having the opportunity to be really passionate about something new and have loads of new challenges, that it was actually the easiest part of it, was that I was so excited to get to train. And even though I was absolutely rubbish, I couldn't do anything and I was probably ruining people's sessions because I couldn't catch the ball. But that kind of excited me, and that side of it, the mental side of it, and being passionate about trying to be better at something was probably why I improved quite quickly, was that. So from my point of view, that was probably the easiest part, because I just suddenly had this big new challenge and had a goal again and something to work towards. So for me, it was actually probably about it.
Hoggy, if you were to switch sport,
Is
like
it
Rachel
jockey,
did,
Jamie?
Yes,
he's a jockey. He's almost going to go.
Come on now, Al.
Come on,
I had to
Hoggy.
bite my tongue there when Rachel was speaking about something, a lack of ability. I had to bite my tongue there, mate. I had to bite my tongue there.
Hoggy, I think it would be golf for you, though, if you were to maybe switch sport and excel at. What would you choose? What sport would you choose?
Oh, mate, I'm probably too big to go back to the horse riding now. So
you were a good horse rider, weren't you?
Until I got signed in the academy, mate, I had ambitions to be a jockey. I think the severe lack of ability there might have let me down. But I think if I was to go and try a different sport, I probably would say golf. It's something that I'm fairly passionate about. We try and play a lot during the year, and I think I played well a fair amount of times. Him and I were on the team, and Al talked about having a bad back from the hockey. I had a bad back for carrying him for 18 holes. So I probably would say golf.
Were we victorious? We played down in a thing down at Celtic Manor, loosely branded a Celeb Cup. I actually got Tom Evans' space because he pulled out to do Strictly Come Dancing. No, what did he pull out? Oh no, Celebrity X Factor. So who
that
did
was the X Factor one, yeah.
Can you remember who we played to be? Was it the England game that we played together? No, I'm the same. It wasn't me either, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday we played against James Jordan and Mike Tyndall. Two very, very good golfers, and you and I that were still half gassed for the night before, but good fun.
Rach, give us a little bit of insight. What made you change? Who was the person that said, pick up a rugby ball? Was it family pressure? There's a fair amount of family.
No, actually.
Your family
actually weren't too keen to start with. But no, it was, I played in a kind of fun touch rugby team over the summer on the break from hockey. And couple of the girls in the team played proper rugby, as in rugby union. And one of the girls was my hockey S&C coach. And she said, our pre-season starts tomorrow, you should just come along and give it a go. And that was at Lichfield Ladies, which was what at the time one of the best kind of teams in the Premiership. And she was like, oh, come along to pre-season, it's a really friendly club, you'll love it, kind of thing. So she took me along the next day, and I had absolutely no context going to this pre-season session. I thought I was going for a throw around, whatever. You turn up, there's like world players of the year there, various international players, all this. And I was like, but to be fair, I had absolutely no idea, and I still didn't know by the end of the session, but I just like got stuck in and absolutely loved it. So that was kind of how it came about. And then I just went to that first season. I played rugby on a Sunday and played hockey on a Saturday, and just did the two. And and then it kind of got to the end of that season when I was in contact with Shade Monroe at the time about potentially getting looked at for coming across to try some of the Scotland stuff. So it was that kind of point I realised I could potentially make something of rugby, so then chop the hockey and just focus on rugby from there out. So it was actually my hockey S&C coach who played rugby that got me involved, which my hockey coach wasn't happy about at the time.
Rach, how many years ago was that?
So I think that was probably about 5 years ago now.
5 years ago, you did your first ever pre-season training, having picked a rugby ball. Yeah, I'm sure you'd maybe thrown a rugby ball around the back garden with your dad and your brothers, who are all very good rugby players in their own right. But now, go on 5 years later, and we're speaking to the current Scotland captain. That's a fairly fast transition into the sport, not only into the sport, but into the top level of the sport. Really keen to get a bit of insight from you guys on your leadership. So we're joined by, as Jamie said, the two current Scotland captains. Hoggy, starting with you, captaincy for you has been something that you've done bits and pieces of over the years, but this is an opportunity now for you to grab it and to own it. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, obviously I've been involved in the kind of leadership groups at both Glasgow and Scotland for maybe 5-6 years. I was very fortunate to learn off of you. One of the best captains I think I've ever played under. And it's just adding bits and pieces from kind of everybody else that I've learned from, Greg Laidlaw, John Backley, yourself, and just adding your own kind of stamp onto it. I think the way that I try and lead is by my actions. But I think, being given the captaincy, going into the Six Nations, I had to speak a lot more than previous camps. But it's something I really quite enjoyed. Obviously, people have different strengths in the way that they try and lead. Is it the way that they speak? Is it the way that they play? Is it the way that they bring everybody together? Everybody's different. But for me, going to that Six Nations camp, all I wanted was to have a big say on things that were happening. We had good conversations with Gregor about things that were working well and things that could be changed or improved. And he was brilliant. As I say, we had a good 2-3 conversations in the build-up to the Six Nations leadership, and he was chuffed that I wanted to put my name in the hat. So in terms of the way that I lead, I want boys to go out there, express themselves and have some, we're all there for a reason. We've all got talent and ability to play for Scotland. So go out there and show it. And if you make a mistake, you bounce through it, you got on with your next job. And I think the first couple of weeks, there's a few costly errors for myself and other errors for other boys, but we didn't let that affect us. We just bounced through it and got my next job. And I think boys, after having conversations during the Six Nations and after it, boys enjoyed themselves, and that's what we're there to do. We're there to have fun. We're there to make memories, because great memories are built on the back of great opportunities, and every single opportunity you get to play for Scotland is, you want to make the most of it. And
Rach, my own view, and feel free to disagree, is that actually probably only 10% of leadership in rugby is on the field. You see the actions of the speaking to the referee and bringing people with you. Hoggy talked there about some high-profile mistakes that were made at the beginning, but it's a small part of it, and without being too much of a mutual appreciation society for both of you, one thing that stands out for me that you two do brilliantly is the way you conduct yourself off the park, the way you take the team with you, the way you speak to the press, speak to the fans, to make sure that there's a culture, an environment created, not just the 80 minutes. Talk us through how you've gone through some of that with the women's team, Rach.
Yeah, I think as a captain, you have a massive responsibility, because you're kind of the voice of your players and of your team, and you want to represent them well in the way that you see yourselves as team. And I think what we have really good within the women's side is we have a fantastic culture, and the girls' attitude across pretty much everything off the field is amazing. So it makes my job pretty easy in terms of getting the attitudes right, but at the same time, if there's ever challenges which have to be made, we've got a team which are really responsive to that. And I think a massive part of leadership is creating the relationships with your teammates that allow you to do that. And whether that's, when a player's on a high, how you deal with that, or when a player's on a low and having a bad time, how you deal with that. And I think everyone's so different. And for me, what really makes a very good leader is someone who understands all their teammates and how to approach them in different situations to get the best out of them. And that's probably comes much more from the off-pitch stuff and taking the time to build those relationships with your teammates, but also with your management. And Hoggy's touched on it as well with Gregor, but same with me, with Shade and with Goose now, is creating those relationships where you can challenge them and have a voice for your teammates. And when your teammates aren't happy, they're going to come to you and say something, and they want to know that they're going to be heard. So it's building those relationships with the management as well, that you can turn to them and say, this isn't potentially working, or is there this that we could do differently, and then responding to it and seeing changes happen. So a massive thing for me is building the relationships off the pitch so that you can have an effect on pitch stuff through that.
Hoggy, I can see you nodding your head there, which is not ideal for a podcast, but it's obviously that you that you agree with Rachel on that. But the wider question I'll put to both of you, though, is, who do you look at, or who, growing up or just now, what leaders or who do you look at for inspiration, or who's inspired you over the course of your career?
I think for me, in all seriousness, I think Al's one of the best captains I've played, and I touched on it earlier, but it was good that the big Al conducted himself off the field, that I was like, this guy's the real deal. And I think, he could, in his pre-match speech, kind of tell you, no matter what he was saying, you're like, right, I'm ready to play. Half the time I had no idea what he was saying. It was just the Glasgow accent. But yeah, it's loads of different bits, because I think, touching on what Rachel was on as well, like building relationships with everybody is massive. Building relationships with the coaches is even bigger, I think, because if you've got a good relationship, they trust you to make decisions on and off the field, and it becomes a situation that it's not us and them, as in the coaches and the players. Like, we pride ourselves on, as a Scottish Rugby as a whole, has been as one, and that's massive for us as a team. Like, coaches and players, we're as one, with the decision making is a process that we go through together. And I think building those relationships builds a trust that allows us to go out there and just be us, make these tough decisions. Like, sometimes we've got a message down from Mike and the rest of the coaches of what the coaches would like to see or do, but sometimes as a leadership group, myself and Rambo, Fraz, Jimmy Ritchie, we made decisions to go against what the coaches sometimes want, but that's not deliberately doing it because we want to be different. It's thinking what's right for the team. We're the ones that feel momentum swings in the game, etc. So there has been situations that we've sometimes not made the right decisions, but we've backed each other, and that's where it becomes really quite a strong unit. And again, it builds trust from the coaches.
And Rach, anyone in particular, or any style of leadership that you kind of admire or look up to?
My one's probably not someone that many people listening to this podcast will be able to relate to because it's from a different sport, but I grew up with a woman named Rona Simpson as my hockey coach all through school and junior international hockey, and her kind of mentality and attitude to training. She was a previous GB hockey player and captain. Her kind of mindset of, she was probably slightly more ruthless in her approach than I am, but her kind of dedication, her attitude to training and stuff like that, and the way she led through her actions, even after her international career finished, was something that I massively kind of aspired to, and her kind of training style and never give up attitude was very much something that I probably learned a lot from all through my childhood and going into playing kind of early adulthood as well. So in terms of kind of behaviours and actions, she's someone I massively learnt from. I think as a captain, coming into rugby, I've learnt a lot from, I'm quite lucky I play at club alongside Sarah Hunter, who's the current England captain and has been for a very long time. So she's been a really good mentor for me in terms of seeing how she deals with kind of on-field decision making and particularly things like talking to the referee, which was a completely new concept for me coming from hockey, where you do not speak to the what we call an umpire there. You just don't speak to them, whereas you come to rugby and that's a massive part of being a leader, which I'd never had experience of before. And in my first season at Lightning, I was captain and had to kind of be thrust into this whole new thing, and I just at the start completely approached it incorrectly and was probably quite aggressive in my manner and didn't have that right. So I've learned a lot from her in how to speak to them and things like that. So probably those are two people as leaders that I've learned quite a lot from through both my hockey and my rugby career.
Hoggy for me, or Hoggy and Rach for me, it's one of the best jobs in a team sport, being a captain, but it can also be one of the loneliest as well. It can be one of the toughest. You take on added responsibility, whether it's right or wrong, you put that on yourself, you definitely do. How do you deal with the tougher times, Hoggy? How do you deal with the low times to make sure that you don't get kind of too embroiled in it, that you can still be playing at the kind of world-class level that you've put out there?
I think, I got a lot of heat over the kind of first couple of weeks at Six Nations for the mistakes that were made, but they were on me. If I was captain or not captain, I'd still be down and hurt by what happened, but I need to be in a position to bounce through them as I touched on everybody else. But I think through the tough times, you do take it maybe a little bit more personal, but I think that's because it means so much to you. Like, as I say, the mistakes that were made in the first couple of weeks were me. And I took that upon myself, and which I believed was the right thing to do. There's nothing's ever going to be perfect. Like a lot of people say, like, oh, that was a perfect session. But for me, nothing's ever perfect. Perfect doesn't exist, so let's not go chasing it. And I think that's the reason that boys maybe kind of started to loosen off a little bit and started expressing themselves during the Six Nations, because they're like, right, mistakes will happen, get on my next job type thing. Everybody, I just think it's the world that we live in nowadays, that people concentrate on the negative stuff. Like, there was a few mistakes, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of good things that happen along with it as well. Like, not many people look at the fact that we beat France. Like, that was a massive result for us. Nobody was expecting us to win that game. They're always kind of concentrating on the kind of mistakes that happened previous to that. Like, for us, like, we concentrate on what happens within the four walls of the changing room. That's what means the most of us. And the boys that do press, and the coaches and the captains, whatever, when they do the press, they kind of take the heat there, and then whatever happens out with it, it's almost irrelevant. So we don't let anybody else control what we're in control of.
Guys, final question from me is around kind of young players, male and female, who are playing the game up and down the clubs around Scotland, who are maybe taking on captaincy role next season when the new season begins, or are learning as captains. What advice would you two individuals give to these young, inspiring captains?
For me, it's probably try and set yourself kind of smaller goals in terms of what you want to achieve as a leader. For me, the big ones are having that professional attitude, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't have a laugh, but it's just being aware of how you conduct yourself and trying to have behaviours that your teammates might want to aspire to. It's creating those relationships with your teammates and your management, and it's enjoying it. If you're putting all this stress on your shoulders and thinking, I'm the captain, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, make it what you want it to be. Every captain doesn't have to be the same, and they shouldn't be the same, because it's going to be different depending on the person you are. So make it what you want it to be, and run with it, and have a bit of ownership. Don't feel like you need to be one of these captains that grabs the thistle and screams and hits the changing room walls and all this. You make it what you want to be, have fun, and yeah, run with it. That would be what I would say.
Be yourself. You're there for a reason. Like, for me, I was picked as captain because of the way I am. Like, I work. I'd like to think I work incredibly hard on and off the field to get the best out of myself. And as I say, the way that I want to be a captain is, people look at me and say, "Look, he's working hard. I'll get right behind him." I also want to be. I'm always the one that wants to try and make a difference as well, like both on and off the field. I want boys to, as I said earlier, be there for the right reasons, to have some fun. But the main thing is that you don't change your personality. You don't change the way that you play. You're there for a reason, and captaincy is just an added extra. Enjoy it. As I said, it's difficult for me to kind of comment on it. I've only been captain 5 times, but now I'm learning on the job. But I'm there because I want to be there, and I'll continue to be me. So any captains that are going to be given honour, just be yourself.
like knowing you guys as I do, you're both very popular within the squad. Rachel, you talked about the ability to set standards that people will follow. Absolutely, that's got to be a key. But the other part of it is the ability to call out poor behaviours, the ability to have difficult conversations with players or coaches or yourself when standards fall below. How important, Hoggy, is it that you have that ability, that trust and ability to bounce back after it quickly as well, that you can call out, and your leaders, not just you, can call out what you deem as to be poor behaviours?
Yeah, I think I'd like to think in the culture that we've created, and the fact that you have an opportunity to represent Scotland. Everybody's there for the right reasons. They're there to work incredibly hard. They're there to make a difference. They're there to represent Scotland. I've been involved in a few camps that sometimes it gets to the end of the kind of Six Nations, and boys that haven't quite been involved in the 23, it starts to become a bit niggling. It starts to become a bit two-sided, as in the 23 and the non-23. For us, as I say, the culture that we've created, boys come in, they work hard for each other, they want to make a difference. We can't be in a situation that there's bad behaviours going on, because if there is bad behaviours, you've seen it firsthand with a few different occasions that they're out the door as quick as they came in. But as I say, it's the culture that's been created from years and years ago, that everybody's there to make a difference and represent Scotland and live the dream. So we've not had to do many. There's not been many occasions that we've had to call out players, but if there has been that situation, we've had a good reaction because it's been done in the right manner, and it has made a difference. And boys have got kind of back on the horse and got back in with the crowd.
So, Rach, that's one of the key things for that, is you're not isolated in that there's a collective voice, whether it's you and the management or you and your leadership group. How strong a leadership group have you managed to create within the Scotland women's team already, and how do you manage those difficult conversations through?
Yeah, we've got a really good setup, to be fair, in terms of that ability to challenge. And I remember me and you had a chat around kind of targeting how you challenge some of the more kind of difficult players maybe to approach. And I think that's where it comes down to those relationships. And in terms of our leadership group at Scotland, we've got a really young team, which is probably quite unique for an international team, is that we don't have a lot of kind of age on our side, and the ability that we've now got to kind of bring through leaders has improved loads over the last few seasons. You've got the likes of kind of Lisa Thompson, Helen Nelson, who are both still so young, but have stepped up and really taken on a bit of leadership role. And I think what's important is it's not always my voice that is telling people off, or is the one bringing bad news or whatever it may be. I think sharing that load is so important, and having people that you can rely on to take that on, and especially on pitch as well. So, people stepping up at set piece and things like that and taking on a bit of ownership, like Lana Skeldon at scrum time is always spot on in terms of leading the pack, and Sarah Bonner at line out time. So I think having people on the pitch that you can turn to as well to have those conversations as to what you want to do from a decision-making point of view is massive. And I think we're really starting to build that as we go through the last couple of seasons. And as I say, we've got kind of players in different areas of both on pitch and off pitch stuff, which are really supporting me with that. And I think having those conversations and that support make those difficult conversations a little bit easier as well. So yeah, I think it's super important.
I think the other fascinating point, Jamie, you made the point about young captains aspiring in sport, but it transfers for me wider than that. So it's life in general. Leadership is leadership is leadership. You can put it in anywhere. So Rach, you're working for a living as well. How much can you take from what you're doing as a leader on and off the park in rugby into your everyday environment? And the same question to you, Stuart, but slightly different in that you're a father of 3 children. Like there's no bigger responsibility, bigger leadership responsibility to bring them through. So what transfers from what you do as a person, as a rugby player, into your fatherhood, Rachel? I'll put it to you first.
Into my fatherhood.
That was
I'm a full-time lecturer as well as the rugby, obviously. And I think from what transfers for me is probably having those communication skills and the ability to teach, recognise that when you teach, it's not always, everyone doesn't learn in the same way, and be able to adapt those communication skills to the different students that I work with, and recognising that to help them get the most out of it. So again, it's kind of, I guess, building that rapport with individuals to help them achieve what the best of their ability. And it's the exact same when I'm, as a captain, I want every single player in my squad functioning at 100%, and it's what makes them tick and how best to communicate with people to help them achieve that.
And Hoggy, with the kids, do you see it? Is there things that transfer over?
Yeah, I guess it's the kind of way that you speak to everybody. The way that I was brought up by my parents, I want to do exactly the same to my kids as well. But I think the big thing for me, as Rachel touched on earlier, is having a group of leaders around you. I think for me, to have the likes of Rambo and Fraz and Jamie Ritchie as the kind of main leaders, and then we have the kind of halfbacks that run the game plan, etc. Every single day in training, no matter, we'd get like a kind of session plan of ideally what we'd be up to, and each kind of leader almost in a day apiece. Like if it came to a Tuesday and it was a massive defence day, what's the point in a fullback who can't make a tackle, leading the day, for instance? So used to hand it over and loads of different. It kind of worked well that everybody had a kind of day apiece. But going back to transfer and stuff to bring back home, I guess it's just the way that you speak to Jill and the kids. I make sure that I'm doing my part at home as well. But I think having Jill and having the kids is probably the best thing that's happened to me, in terms of it makes me realise that I can switch off and really relax when I come home and almost leave rugby at the door. And I think that's what's almost made me a better player, because I'm not constantly stressing about it 24/7. Yes, it probably is a little bit different now that I'm captain, because I was concentrating on it quite a lot and making sure that I was doing everything I possibly could. But I love it. I love the responsibility. I love the responsibility of being captain. I love the responsibility of being a parent. And I wouldn't change anything.
Talking of parents, it's worth saying it was your old man's birthday during the week, was it not? We should wish him a happy birthday.
Yeah, we were on the FaceTime to him yesterday. He's 62 yesterday, so he's retiring at the end of July. And during his lockdown period, he's managed to do all his jobs that he had planned for retirement. So God knows what he's going to be up to once he actually retires. But
you can put a list together that you can do in your house.
Oh, mate, he's more than that. You'll be down every single week, mate. 100%. He's rugby obsessed, so he'll be down at most of the Chiefs games. But John, the kids baked him a cake yesterday. Obviously, we couldn't send up to him, so obviously I had to have a little taste of it and see what it was like. So, and it just so happens there's half the cake left, so I might just have to have another little bit today.
Well, Hoggy, we won't hold you back any longer. You can go and have that cake. But I just want to say massive thanks to yourself and for Rachel for coming on and giving that really insightful chat into and around leadership. Fascinating chat. Guys, thank you very much for your time, and stay safe.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Take care.
Now, you had a joint role in that one because you were a guest and a presenter to an element. But you enjoy that? You will know Hoggy reasonably well, do you?
Yeah, we've met a couple of times and spent obviously the day at the Six Nations launch together a fair wee while ago now, actually. It's good, I think, just to give a bit of kind of player insight into life as a rugby player, I guess. But no, that was very enjoyable.
So that player insight was my role, Jamie. So I'm not sure what my role is now, because we've now got a current Scotland captain.
Yeah, I think the word maybe is redundant, Al. But we'll chat afterwards. But no, Rach, obviously we're all isolating just now. We're all working from home. Where are you just now? Where are you working from?
So I live and work down in Nottingham. I'm a lecturer at Nottingham Trent University. So I am currently in isolation down here. I'm currently still working as it stands full time.
The growth of the women's game up here, not just on the park but off the park, has been phenomenal, and we'll get more and more insight from somebody who's right at the coalface of that. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you over the course of the weeks and getting up various guests on and pushing and prodding them in different directions as well. There's
been a couple of other players been posting that they've been doing workouts together on Zoom. I think Jade was leading one the other day, which looked like a pretty intense. There's a lot of confused faces though from a lot of the girls.
Yeah, Jade came on. Jade's PT as her job alongside obviously our rugby. So she led us in a session yesterday, and turned up with this massive list of all these exercises that as athletes none of us had heard of. But no, she put on a brilliant session for the girls, and in fairness, everyone's working really hard at the moment just to keep themselves ticking over and in a position where, you know, obviously we don't know what the future holds at the moment, so in a position where when things do start to pick up, we can get back to training and get back to training at a good intensity. So no, fair play to all the girls. Everyone's working really hard, so it's good to see.
Rach, as I said earlier on, brilliant to have you on the podcast, and looking forward to speaking to you again in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, can't wait. Cheers, guys.
Well, that brings us to the end of this week's podcast, but don't forget, we will be back next week with more exclusive content.